feel they are morally superior to you. So the rules don't apply to them. So Bernie's getting interviewed by Bret Baier, and, you know, it's all about fighting the oligarchy. I am once again asking you to donate money to help me fight the oligarchy, which I was silent about for 4 years as the billionaires helped the Democratic Party consolidate power. But now I am concerned about the oligarchy because some billionaires are helping the other party. Bernie's asked by, and listen, I think Bret Baier, you don't have to like Bret Baier. I don't watch a lot of Fox News. I watch almost no Fox News at all. In fact, since Tucker's left the channel, not only do I not have cable, so I'm literally not watching Fox, but even watching clips of Fox online, no joke, I've probably seen maybe 30 minutes total since, how long's Tucker been gone, of Fox News. I definitely have watched more CNN, MSNBC, because I'm usually watching clips of like Morning Joe, Jake Tapper, Rachel Maddow. I think that Bret Baier's always been someone that, even if I don't agree with him, he at least gives the appearance of trying to be an interviewer that's not just lobbing softballs. And he's also not superly aggressive that's just like spiking the ball. And he'll do that to Trump, and he'll do it to left-wingers. So Bernie goes on Bret Baier to complain about the oligarchy, and, Bret asked him the question that's on everyone's mind. When this was going on, when you saw Bernie and AOC jet setting in a private jet around the country yelling about climate change, it's like you realize like every one of those private jet trips you're taking is more than the average person puts into CO2 in a year in their day-to-day life. But we're being controlled. We're being told we have to do more, but people like Bernie, the rules don't apply to them. So let's see the clip when he's asked about this, and then we'll go from there.
Alyssa Slotkin, senator from Michigan, she said you shouldn't be using oligarch. It's over people's head. You've gotten criticized from other people. Free Beacon says Bernie Sanders spent $221,000 on private jets fighting the oligarchy tour, paid for by friends of Bernie Sanders. That you've spent millions of dollars in campaign funds on private jet travel over the years. How do you push back on both of those things?
When's the last time you saw Donald Trump during a campaign mode at National Airport?
No. It doesn't. But he's also not fighting the oligarchy.
No. You run a campaign and you do 3 or 4 or 5 rallies in a week. The only way you can get around to talk to 30,000 people. Think I'm going to be sitting on a waiting line at United waiting, 30,000 people are waiting. That's the only way you can get around. No apologies for that. That's what campaign travel is about. We've done it in the past. We're going to do it in the future.
And you think that this is hitting a mark? You think it's
See, when Bernie does it, it's important. It's very important. He's got important things that he needs to accomplish. Now think about what he's saying here. Now, isn't this reminiscent of going back to the pandemic days? Oh, here's another thing I wanted to show you. So then you have Andrew Yang. He's going to speak up. Remember him? The, send everyone money guy. He says, Bernie Sanders is 83 and had to be in multiple states in the same day. In that situation, you fly private. The rules are different for them. They're important, good, moral people. That's always the case for these Democrats. It's always the case. The rules that they proclaim for you do not apply to them, ever. It does not apply at all. One of the most infuriating, amongst the list of stuff that happened during lockdowns and the pandemic, to me, there was a lot that directly affected me, people I know, people in my community. But the one that didn't directly affect people in my area in rural Pennsylvania, my family, my work, or anything like that, that caused me the just most teeth-clenching rage was the mayor of Chicago. What was her name? I'll think of it here in a second. Let's see. Lori Lightfoot. There she is. Lori, far be it from me to insult someone's appearance. I know I'm not the world's most handsome man, but her appearance is actually important to this story. You remember when Lori Lightfoot gave this press conference and she was outed because in Chicago, she forced all beauty salons to close down. And then it turned out that she was going to one in private and getting her hair and makeup and whatever done. And she was confronted about this. And what was amazing was she was unabashed, just like Bernie there. No apologies. No, I refuse to apologize. She was just like, yeah, personal hygiene's important to me. For me, it's important. Her looks are important to her, which I just thought maybe seeing a picture of this woman's looks, wow, you let that stew. So I guess personal hygiene wasn't important to anyone else in Chicago. Bernie Sanders says, I will not, no apologies. When you're running a campaign, you must fly private. Andrew Young says, he's 83. He has multiple stops. What can you do? Well, geez, Bernie, if you want to talk about the oligarchy, you don't think that some CEO of a business that has to attend multiple business meetings, implications of which could affect thousands upon thousands of employees, you don't think they'd make the same argument? Well, it's important that I be able to fly private. I can't be waiting in line. I have multiple meetings to attend. I can't be distracted by the people on coach flying commercial. I have to have a private. Now, I'm not saying that as someone who will never be wealthy myself, most likely, that there aren't things to complain about sort of the extremely wealthy class. Certainly there are complaints. And it's one of the reasons that I think that there is some significant overlap with populism on the left and populism on the right. Like I have populism on the right, you know? But let's not get it twisted. There's this idea, I think, that I just don't believe is the case in most of the time, that like these billionaires are just like sitting back on their yachts, smoking cigars and doing nothing. Like you may hate Elon Musk, and that's fine, but he's like doing stuff. He's sleeping on the floor like at X. You might say he's not productive, but he's there. He's milling about. I don't know how many nights Elon has where it's just like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the bar and watch the game. Yeah, there's like now the celebrity appearances you see when he's at the UFC fight with like Trump's team or whatever. But Bernie, someone says, is Bernie advocating to ban private flights? I don't know if he's advocated specifically for that policy. It's irrelevant. He talks about the need to institute a bunch of Green New Deal-esque policies for climate change when private flights are far worse than all of the things that the Green New Deal type policies have talked about, banning combustion vehicles for people, gas ovens, things of that nature. And he's railing against the oligarchy. The point is, as is always with Bernie, when he talks about, oh, all of this wealth that's consolidated, the oligarchy, people with wealth, the excess that they live with, do they really need all of this? He exempts himself. And that's always what these socialists do. I've told you the story that I got from Jordan Peterson about Orwell writing the book, The Road to Wigan Pier. And so he gets paid by these socialists in England to write this book. And the first half of the book, it's typical socialist, like legitimate criticisms, talking about the plight of these workers at this place, Wigan Pier, and how horrible their lives are. But then the second half of the book's like, but none of these so-called socialists care. They don't care. They're just using the plight of these people to attack those with more than them. Remember when I was debating Fatty and we talked about this, Bernie in the 70s? There should be no millionaire senators. Well, if you adjust for inflation, Bernie now meets the very criteria that he was criticizing back in the 70s. Now the problem's not millionaire senators. Now it's billionaire senators. You see, as always, exactly what Bernie does is acceptable. Anyone with more than him is an oligarch. They shouldn't be influencing politics. Elon Musk in politics, that's bad. Donald Trump in politics, that's bad. J.B. Pritzker, a billionaire, that's good. That's okay. That billionaire's okay. That's Bernie. If you're really concerned about climate change to the fact where you're going to lecture other people about why they shouldn't be allowed to have a certain pickup truck or they need to do more, why can't you fly commercial? Why'd Bernie have to do multiple rallies a day? Why couldn't he take a bus and do one rally a day? He had to fly private? Radical Coder says, I think Bernie would agree with the CEOs I mentioned also having a good reason to fly private. Great. So then who are the people that Bernie would say need to change their behavior with climate change? Does Bernie agree that my friends that all drive pickups all have a good reason? Because most of them do. Do I have a good reason to own multiple cars? Because I do. So who is it? Who are these people that are engaged in excess? He criticizes the oligarchy all the time, but you're saying he would agree that the CEOs... I'd find it difficult to believe that Bernie Sanders would say, I understand why people have private jets and fly them that are CEOs because they are busy people. I disagree. I don't think he would be saying that. James asks for $10. Thanks so much, man. Says, this is nothing new. John Kerry is a climate czar and Bill Gates being questioned on flying private. And of course, their time is too important. Also remember seeing a picture of a line of jets at Davos. Right. I remember hearing like a story about like Leonardo DiCaprio one time flying in a private jet for like literally like a 30-minute flight to speak at a climate change conference. It's like you just spent more CO2 in that 20-minute flight. It's always rules for you. You need to make sacrifices. It's you. Under the pandemic, you weren't allowed to go to church in many areas. You weren't allowed to go visit your family in nursing homes. You weren't allowed to go to your job if you were non-essential. Heck, some people weren't even allowed to go to public parks, but you could go out for Black Lives Matter. You could go to the French Laundry if you were Gavin Newsom. If you were my governor, Tom Wolf, here in Pennsylvania, you could lecture people in Pennsylvania, tell them that just because their county political leaders questioned the lockdowns, that if they didn't change, he would take away your license to operate a business, not theirs, not the politicians, your license because you lived in that county that was defying him. And he said you were a coward if you wanted to go back to work, if you didn't like the lockdown. And then weeks later, he violated his own lockdown order to go march with Black Lives Matter. And when asked about it, they said, well, what we're doing is important. In other words, what you're doing is not important. As they were locking you down, remember the huge funeral they had for, what was the civil rights gentleman that died? Lewis, that's right. How many funerals did they have for Lewis? Yeah, John Lewis. Lavish funerals. They're having parties at Martha's Vineyard. Remember Barack Obama's? But boy, oh boy, you couldn't go to your job. You couldn't go to church. You couldn't have a wedding for your daughter. It's always like that. Why is it? It's because they feel they are morally superior to you. So the rules don't apply to them. Let them eat cake. You can imagine it. Well, we all need to tighten our belts, food rations, fuel rations. Oh, not for me, though. Not for me. I'm one of the good ones. My work is important. Not yours, though. Your work's not important. I need to fly private. It's important to me because I'm doing important work, but not you. You're the problem.